Hey guys, welcome back to GrindWise. It's time for another episode. Today is going to be exciting. As always, I'm sitting here with my partner Brent, and I'm of course Erle. But we are going to talk about something that has been hitting us left and right ever since our first podcast, where we first talked about business credit. We've been blown up in the emails. We have literally been digging for weeks and weeks and weeks to put this together so that we can bring the value to you. So today we're going to be talking about things that are on your mind, that you're probably wondering after watching our first podcast, things about your business as it relates to business credit. As always, make sure you go down, like, subscribe, follow us for additional content, because we are going to bring you the answers that you want as it relates to business. Brent, you know what it was like. We did the podcast. We talked about corporate credit, building credit on a business's EIN, and what happened?
It blew up on us. People went crazy.
It went crazy. Literally, message after message after message. You said you got a text last night. Because, see, this is what we do. We'll put the numbers out there. You're going to be able to find down in the description how to actually get a hold of us directly. And today, you don't want to miss what we're going to talk about, because we're going to give you something free that has so much value to it. It's going to reposition you and your business in a way you never thought possible. But you got a call last night or this morning. Tell us about that.
3 o'clock this morning. It was just a text that said, I need a new truck. Hey, you know, your comment was perfect. I should have responded and said, I need more sleep.
Well, but it's been like that ever since. Yep. So we do the podcast, we have the conversation. I'm essentially interviewing you on corporate credit and how it can change things for people's businesses. People watched it. Tens of thousands of people watched this video, this podcast, and we're getting all of these emails. You put your phone number out there, so really daily you're still getting phone calls from that, and there's a pretty consistent line of questioning that seems to be coming out.
100%. We have a lot of questions, and you know, I had a conversation with a guy yesterday and got off the phone with him, and I sent him an email with all the information, and he called me 2 or 3 more times to add more questions. You know, and he's like, I'm sorry I keep bugging you. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. It's what I'm here for, to answer those questions and help you move forward.
You know, it's funny when you think about corporate credit and building credit on a business's EIN, we could probably talk about it for 10, 15, 20 hours straight. But at the end of the day, it's all really nuanced. Meaning, does it work? Yeah, it works, right? Can you do it? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I always tell people about the company I created. It'll be 2 years old this month, and I built it with no revenue. Is literally using my personal expenses on a business credit card. Pay for it personally, so I'm not doing anything illegal. But I built that credit profile, and I just bought my daughter a brand new Jeep Cherokee on the EIN number a week ago Wednesday.
Is that even legal?
100% legal. I build a credit profile. You build a strong credit profile on the EIN number. It's like the Social Security for the business, right? Mm-hmm. So I've demonstrated my ability to borrow and pay. That's what it's all about.
Okay. So, like I said, we got a lot of questions. We worked, and usually when that stuff comes in, Brent's really busy with what he does. I'm really busy with what I do, and I'm kind of the research lab rat. I'm the one who digs in there and goes, all right, we got to find the answers. But it does us no good to find the answers if we don't share them with the people that are taking the time to watch this. So I just want you to kind of take a look at this. This is page after page after page after page after page after page of content based on your questions, based on the most popular questions as it relates to business credit. We did the research, we put it all together, and at the end of this, you're going to be able to go down to our description section and click a link, and we're going to send this to you absolutely free. Everything you ever wanted to know about corporate credit. But today, Brent, I wanted to just kind of, as a taster here, I might actually talk about a couple other questions, because some of these are pretty intelligent questions.
Right. I agree. I mean, the thing is that when we meet with people, we get people from all different walks of life, whether they're thinking about starting a business and this intrigues them, or they're running a $100 million company and they didn't know anything about it.
Right. Well, and at the end of the day, people get into business, right, because they want to have something that maybe they sell, they pass on down to their families, nepotism, however you want to relate it, or maybe they're just there for the long haul because they truly, truly love what they're doing. But the problem that people run into is those businesses sometimes go to the wayside, which is what we've done in business is create and dedicate ourselves to bringing all the resources to the table so that businesses have longevity. And this is really that big pillar, right? This is that precursor foundation that says, I'm going to be around for a long time. So I got to say, though, before we dive in on it, normally we do something with bourbon ball caps and business. Today is pretty special because we're going to take all of the countless hours of work that we've put into it and make all this stuff available to the people that are watching this. No strings attached. It's just free. But this is anything and everything you ever wanted to know about business credit. But I want to dive in because there's some people that have spent some time watching what we're doing, and they've taken the time to write us some pretty nice letters for sure, and some pretty pointed questions. Like starting off, I got Thomas here. Thomas sent over, and I don't see where Thomas is from, but Thomas sent us this one, and it was pretty cut and dry. Brent, he said, "What is business credit, and how is it different from personal credit?"
Well, it's, I just looked at, or just kind of answered that question, really. It's your created your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay reflected on the 3 business credit bureaus. So personal credits automatically happens. Business credit, you have to be intentional. If you don't do it intentionally, it's just not going to happen.
Okay. So I guess it seems weird asking that question without bourbon in front of me because we love to do that. And I know Blue Couch Studios is here today, as always, helping us grow this podcast and doing all the fine work that they do with us. And he doesn't have any bourbon. I think he's a little bit disappointed, but we're going to leave that aside because we've really got to get into the nuts and bolts of this today. The weather's changing here in Oklahoma. It's getting a little bit warmer. I almost rode my Harley up here today, but last second I said, no, I'll go in the truck. But I was excited about this. I got to be honest with you. I was excited because reading through all of this stuff, and really it's been about 5-6 weeks of research that went into pulling all of this information together so that we could give it to you guys so that you would be well versed in what it takes to build business credit and really answer all the questions that might be just settling in the back of your mind. And honestly, Brent, this one's no different. Erle, I think Erle was from Tennessee. She said, and this is a normal question. I've heard this, right? We hear a lot of the same, though. There's some fun ones that we're going to get into today. But Erle said, do I need an LLC or a corporation to even build business credit?
You absolutely need an LLC or a corporation of some kind. As long as there's an EIN number, there can be credit built on it outside of a sole prop. So you have to have the EIN number. Your EIN number and your business address is what the business credit's built on.
That's pretty cut and dry. That's a real black and white answer. It's Erle. I hope that answers your question. And it's none of these are dumb questions. I want you guys to understand this. We get asked all manner of questions. Some of them, and I might get into a few of them here today, just because they're somewhat fun. But I really want to address the most common questions that we get. Brent, how long have you been doing this with business credit? 3 years now. What got you into it? I mean, why?
Running a $6 million trucking company. Every time I went to buy something, you figure running a $6 million company, you can do it without a personal guarantee. I couldn't. Mm-hmm. And I got tired of that. And I was like, you putting all your personal assets and all this stuff up, collateralizing it. And, I wasn't doing it anymore. And when I actually sold the company, I pulled the credit profile just to see why I wasn't able to access, the credit. And it had a $7,600 credit limit recommendation.
$6 million a year.
Yep.
And you had how much credit?
$7,600.
So then what? You see this and what? You're mad or?
Well, I couldn't figure it out. I mean, I had around $3 million in notes I was paying. I had a fuel card I was paying. I had employees I was paying, and none of that stuff was reflecting. I'd bought a power washer for my fleet, and that power washer was the only thing showing up on my credit profile. Well, and my cell phone bill. Those are the only two things. And it was a $10,000 power washer. So thinking about back to your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay on the credit bureaus. I demonstrated I could borrow and pay $7,600.
You were borrowing a lot more than that, weren't you?
Right.
So it was all on your personal credit at the time.
Yep. My personal credit got hit 42 times the month of lockdown by one bank because I was buying that many trucks.
It's interesting. In our company, there's probably about 85 people across the country that are out there trying to change businesses' lives as it relates to corporate credit and stuff like that. And every one of them kind of had a different path, if you will, towards ending up with us over on TJ Corporate Credit side, which is why, it's part of the reason that we do this GrindWise podcast, but you've asked me several times, how did you get involved, right? And it comes up. People are always saying, well, how did you get started in this? And, I haven't talked about it a lot, and I don't need to get into it super deep, but I'll tell you, and you know this about me, but 37 years in one way, shape, fashion, or form, I've been building businesses. Right. I think back all the way to my first lemonade stand. I was sitting out there on the corner. Of course, mom helps you get set up a little bit, gives you some of the sugar and some of the lemon juice. I don't even know if we were using country time or squeezed lemon. I think we used country time and squeezed some lemons into it. But I remember being a kid and having that lemonade stand, and I'm out there on the corner. Get your fresh lemonade. Come on down, 10 cents a cup. I'm barking out on the corner. I'm like, woo, I'm a businessman. And I got it in my head. I'm like, well, there's that corner up there and there's that corner over there. If I get John on this corner, right, I'll have him, he'll run one, right? And he'll sell 10-cent lemonade. And I'll get Mike doing it over here on this corner. And really all I got to do is take the money that I'm making on lemonade right now, and I can buy the lemons and the sugar. Their mom's going to give them a pitcher and stuff like that in cups, and dad probably has a table for them, right? But I'll take like 5 cents for every cup, but I'll set them up. I'm gonna provide the lemons, right?
You were starting a franchise.
I started a lemon. This is the mind, like when you're a little kid, right? So I talked to John and Mike. They're excited. They're like, woohoo, I'm in business. I'm going to do this, right? And it's a really early life lesson that it took me 40 years to learn, really, frankly. But so Mike and John get involved. I have mom take me to the grocery store, buy lemons, I buy sugar, and their mom's gonna do all that. But I lived over in kind of the Seattle area at the time, and John and Mike are excited. But the next day we're gonna get ready to go, and it starts raining. And like Seattle weather does, it just kept on raining, and it kept on raining. Well, John and Mike lost interest, and frankly, I was kind of losing interest too. And then my little skinny butt left the lemons out by the garage, and the sugar got wet, and it all dissolved. So my investment for my first lemonade stand went to the wayside, right? So
happens all the time. Happens all the time to business owners.
But that's a small scale compared to what happens in business as you go along. So my entrepreneurial journey started there, right? I always wanted to own businesses, always did. And so I've owned a lot of businesses throughout my life so far. And some of them have been tremendous successes, and some I fell flat on my face, like most entrepreneurs. Prior to getting involved in this world here, I owned a business that my family had backed me on. They put up $1.9 million in real money, and we went about it and got started. And I think the first year we did like $3.5 million in sales. Second year we did about $6.5 million in sales. I mean, that's a pretty good jump. Third year, right at about 10 million. But I love Harley Davidsons. You know that. Yeah. I talk about it. Well, I got on one and I decided I was going to ride from Washington State back to New York. I kind of wanted to do the coast to coast thing. And I'm on my way back. I'm in Sheridan, Wyoming, about 600 and some odd miles from Spokane, where I live at the time. And I get a call. Brent, I get a call from a friend of mine up there. Actually, it was his wife, but my friend had a heart attack. He was in the hospital and he wasn't doing too well. And they said, you got to get back here. Ryan's asking about you. So I told the guys I was riding with, I said, hey, look, I'm gonna take off early in the morning. I've been gone for a week plus at this point, and I got to get back to business. I mean, we're doing a lot of business. Now, that whole business, I personally guaranteed everything. Put a lot of money into it, but it was my name on it, right? I rinsed and repeated the lemonade stand the whole way through. All the way through. I've done it over and over and over in business. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Usually you win. Usually I won, right? But I had some hard knocks. Well, anyway, I get on my bike, 4:45 in the morning. I know that I'm going to get there later in the evening. It's, 600 some odd miles, bang that out, no problem. I get about 4 miles out of Sheridan. It's 80 miles an hour from Sheridan up to Billings, Montana. I'm doing about 85. It's July. It's a beautiful day already. It's warm. The sun's not up yet, but it's kind of cracking the horizon. And I come over this blind rise, and as my headlights level down, there's a mule deer standing in the road, broadside. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, it's 250 feet in front of me. I'm doing 126 feet per second. I have no time to dynamite my brakes. So I lean to the right, because that's where its rear end was. I thought I'll squirt behind it, and it'll jump forward. As I leaned to the right, it simultaneously took a step backwards into my path, and another deer stepped out. And I went, oh. I hammered the throttle at the last second, blew right into the side of the deer, tumbled at 85 miles an hour down the road with an 800 and some odd pound bike Harley landed on top of me. End up face first on the pavement, dying, right? I broke every single rib in the left side of my body, 2 to 3 spots, shoulder blade, collarbone, ripped the soles clean off my boots.
Wow.
Now, as an FYI, just for anybody that's interested, bare feet and pavement at 85 miles an hour, not a good combination, right? No. So I was dying. I had a rib stuck through my lung. I mean, the good Lord saw fit to save me. I wouldn't be here otherwise. That's just is what it is. But my injuries were so bad, they had to put me in a coma, and they took me from Sheridan and up to Billings, right? There's a lot to the story in between, but just for the sake of time, I'm sharing it this way because there's a point to it. They put me in a coma in Billings. Now, this company that I had that did $10 million, almost $10 million this third year. I had a couple partners. They had brought the idea to me. My family put up the money. We went about business. So they're on the cap table. They hear I'm in a bad motorcycle wreck and then I'm probably going to die. So instead of like what most human beings would do, where they're like, oh my gosh, how can I help? They thought, how can I help myself? So they stripped and ripped my company while I laid there dying. Took merchant capital advance loans in my name. It's post-COVID, so it's just DocuSign. 75,000 in, 75,000 out the back door. 100,000 in, 100,000 out the back door. I'm in the coma. And all of a sudden, ta-da, I lived, right? They thought I was going to die. Everybody thought I was going to die, doctors, all of them, but I lived. I get told that because they're on the cap table, it's now a civil matter. It's no longer criminal at all. And I have no recourse except to go after them civilly. My dad used to say, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip, right? Well, these were some juicy turnips and there was no blood coming out of them. You kind of give up at a certain spot. So part of the point of the story is it's not just economic downturns. It's not just bad decisions in business. Sometimes God intervenes. Sometimes natural things intervene that can change the course of your life forever. And I'd done business the same way forever. So now I'm in a mechanical chair that raises and lowers me to my feet, right? It's the only way to get up or down. I'm in really bad shape, screaming in agony. I'm like, hey, Lord, I'm not Job. I don't know what you want from me. I'm not sure what the whole goal is here. There's a lesson somewhere. And I got it in my head, if I get to live, I'm gonna do something good. I'm gonna give back. I think I'm gonna start a 501c3. I'm gonna do something for Gold Star families. It's a passion project I've been involved in the past. I knew I wanted to give back. I get to live. I'm gonna give back. And one day, by happenstance alone, literally, because I'm just sitting there with a laptop in a chair, going in pain. I see this blurb about business credit, and I was already in a bad mood, right? I was already in a bad mood, Brent. And my first impression of it was, bullpucky, right? Except I didn't say pucky. And so now I have all this time on my hand. I said, I'm going to go about disproving this. I'm going to find out what the scam is here because I just got done with a bunch of scam artists. I'm still dealing with them, but I'm going to figure out where the scam here is. And I couldn't find it. All I could find was thousands of stories where people have done exactly what we're talking about and built corporate credit and changed their lives and the trajectory of their business. So it settled in on me, and I thought, what else don't I know? I mean, my gosh, I'm this smart business guy at 37 years or 30 some odd years at that point, building businesses. What else don't I know? Which is where our intersection occurred, where you and I connected, and collectively we said, what else don't we know? And it's been all these years now of bringing these things to the table, all these resources and tools that changes the trajectory of business. But the point is, there's a lot of stories like that out there, far worse than mine, where people leveraged all of their assets, leveraged themselves against their business, and they lose it like that for no fault of their own, really.
Yeah, they're positioning themselves incorrectly. We say it all the time. We live in a world of you don't know what you don't know. So if people all the time are calling me going, man, I just realized I don't know anything about credit. I thought I had credit. And when we look at their profile, which is, we'll do that for any one of you. Give us a call, shoot us an email. We'll get you on a call. We'll pull your credit profile for free and give you a plan to move forward to build that so you can get stuff on, you can get funding on that EIN number without having to personally guarantee it in the future.
So it's that funny moment where you go, gosh, I must be the dumbest smart person in the room, right?
Yep.
I'll probably never know half of what I want to know, and I'll probably only ever know a quarter of what I think I know. That was the epiphany that came, and it's been this thing all the way through. So when we look at these questions that are coming from people, that they're reaching out, they're no different than you and I were at one point in business. You have a $6 million company, and you qualify for $7,600 in credit. I have a $10 million company, and the whole thing's leveraged against my name, and I got a couple really bad partners with no scruples. It's not shocking to hear some of these questions, like the one from Olivia. Olivia says, how long does it take to establish business credit?
So, that's a good question. That trucking company that I had was 15 years old. It had no credit. I wasn't intentional, didn't build the profile. So going through the steps in the right order and being intentional, you can be at top tier credit in 12 months. Now, go back and think about when you were 18 years old. When you got your very first credit card, if you didn't use it right, or if you didn't, even use it at all, you didn't build any credit. So you have to do this intentionally. You couldn't buy a house after a year on the personal credit side. 1 year building your personal credit, you probably aren't buying a house. With a business credit, when you build it over that 12 months and you're demonstrating your ability to borrow and pay as much of your everyday expenses through that as possible, you're going to be able to access a multiplier, and it's 10 to 50 times more than what you can get personally.
Olivia, did you hear that? That was an answer to your question. That's a perfect answer. It's the right answer. It's spot on. And again, these are questions that we get asked pretty frequently by people. There's 150 questions that we were able to pull out of all of this communication, right? And then it becomes the deep dig of what's the right answer? How do we give them the right answer that really breaks down more than what we're just saying on camera? How do we do that? And then how do we get it to them? Well, this is how we're going to get it to you. You just go down into the description, and you're going to be able to click a link, and we will send that over to you digitally right away, and you'll have all the answers well beyond what we're going to talk about here today. But let's keep moving on, because there's a lot of stuff that came our way, and I'm excited about it. Mason out of Oregon asked, do all lenders and vendors report to credit bureaus?
If they did, everybody would have business credit. So the answer to that question is actually really shocking. It's not federally regulated that they have to report. So most of them don't. In fact, the number, it fluctuates, but it's usually 95% not reporting.
95%.
95% not reporting. Now you can say 5% report, same number, right? It was 93%. Versus 7%. 3 years ago, it went the other way, and then it actually went even further down, and it came back to the 95.5.
So I've heard a lot of vendors sometimes they'll offer business credit, and then they change their rules, or they report to business credit, and then they kind of change their rules a little bit, and then they don't, and then they go, that's hurting us, and then they go back in. Is that flux? You still seeing that over on your end within the business?
Absolutely. There's 2 vendors right now that we utilize, and they stop reporting for a couple months and then go back to reporting, and that's just not acceptable. You got to have consistent, regular reporting. And so there's another vendor I found out last week deciding they're not going to report anymore, so they're getting pulled from the program.
I bet they go back to reporting.
They probably will.
I'll tell you what, when people are trying to build credit and they're trying to build their business, it's important to pick and choose the right vendors and lenders for your business. I certainly would. Like you said, you're spending all this money, and you weren't spending $7,000 a month, Brent. What were you spending in your trucking company every month just to keep it floating?
Oh, I mean, my annual expenses were right around $5.5 million, probably.
So if you're thinking in terms of business, $6 million business, $5.5 million spend, hopefully $500,000 in net coming back. If that ends up, and that's the perfect world, right? Type situation. But a lot of that was payroll. A lot of that was other stuff.
Fuel and payroll, the 2 biggest ones.
Fuel and payroll. So fuel is an absolute, there's a lot of lenders and vendors that will report to business credit as it relates to fuel.
Absolutely, there is.
So if you're a business and you have fuel expenses, that's almost an automatic. Quit putting that on your, because you know what they do. These businesses, they do like I did for 30 some odd years. Yeah, I'll just sign my name. Don't worry about it. As a company, I'll be able to pay for that, and it rolls and it rolls. But there's a different way to do it.
Yeah, I run across business owners all the time that they give out their personal credit card to their employees because they get airline miles and they want to take their free trips. Well, you can do this, you can do the same thing in corporate credit once you get there, but you can't get there using the card you're using on your personal side. So, I always encourage people, people, make sure if you want to use your card, use it for you. Use the business card in the business.
So you can still get a card, even when it's business credit. You can still get a card that will do the airline miles, the points, and the accumulation. There's no real excuse to continue doing it on your own Social Security number at that point.
Nope.
Are those tough cards to get?
They are.
Okay.
On the airlines, they are. Actually, I've got one in my wallet. I only got it because I didn't even really need it, but I got it. It's an American Airlines. It's a business card. And I'm not showing my number, but I got that card because I got it with the company with no revenue.
Right.
Right. So I had my personal. They did check my personal credit on that one. I had probably right around 800 at the time. So I was applying for it because I know somebody who owns a $25 million company and very successful. Really makes a lot of money with the company. His margins are great. He has a great credit score. And for probably 2 years straight, every quarter this guy would apply for that card and get declined. Really? I applied one time and I got it.
Why is that? Why did it work for you when it didn't for others?
He didn't have any credit. He didn't have a credit profile. And that card is something you have to have established credit profile to get.
It's crazy as we go through this. I was looking over at Casey's. He sent this long email. It was nice. Casey, we appreciate it. Seriously, we do. We get so much of it. It's nice to be able to sit here and read this, but I'm coming down, getting to the kind of the crux of your question. So Casey, where is Casey? Oh, he's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay. Hope it's warm down there. How do I ensure my business is actually fundable? How do you even know? How do you figure that out? That's what Casey's wanting to know. How does he know if his business is fundable?
Well, you got to make your business fundable. So I'll go back to my company with no revenue. It's fundable when I'm buying something, collateralizing something. If I need something with hard money, I have to show revenue. And so you got to be able to show revenue to know if your business is fundable. If you're showing revenue and you're building the credit profile, number one, you're going to access. You can pick and choose where you want to go. You can access hundreds and thousands of different vendors. The door's wide open to you.
That's crazy. So now, just so you know, Casey, if we'd had this sooner for you, my friend, that you could download, all these questions would be answered, and they're all going to be able to be answered for you guys, 100% free. We aren't trying to get anything out of it. We've got tons and tons of research hours putting this together, collaborating, kind of putting together what questions are they asking. But this is just 150 of them, and this comprises this almost a 200-page book, but it's all referenced, easy for people to look at. I don't know if I can pronounce this guy's name. Kashan. I'm not sure exactly how he said it. I apologize. I don't mean to butcher your name. Sometimes it's tough, but he's asking, hey, can I have business credit without a bank account?
No. The answer is short
and there
answer.
You go. There's the answer. And that's our show today. Thank you very much for joining us.
The short answer is no. Again, going back to what I said earlier, you have to show the business has revenue. When you go out and try to get hard money in the form of a line of credit or buy real estate or things like that, you have to be able to show them bank statements. And you got 3 to 6 months, or depending on the vendor, 3 to 6 months. Now, if you show them your personal credit or your personal bank account, that's not going to do you any good because they're going to see all your personal expenses and they're not going to see a business. Look, at the end of the day, what they want to see is you're a major corporation. Mm-hmm. They want to see that you're a corporation. Period. Walmart doesn't use a personal bank account for their bank, right? They have a corporate bank account. You have to have it. I have several companies. The one with no revenue, it's got a bank account sitting there with $100 in it, and that's all I ever put in there just to keep it open. Yeah,
so it ties back to our mission, what you and I talk about frequently in our own companies and what we do outside of this, which is that repositioning of the small to medium-sized business to where they're operating on a micro level, like a Wall Street company, right? And that's why we do what we do. We bring tools, resources, solutions to the table that, frankly, most people would be completely unaware of. Certainly, if they were aware of, it'd be probably cost prohibitive for them to engage in it. And that's even if they could find them, right? Well, we've pulled all that together. That's why we do this. And we love the topics that we have here on GrindWise. It's not always directly related back to what we do, but we do so much within our company. Jackson, I wonder if is that his last name? Jackson's last name or his first name? It just says Jackson. Hey Jackson, how you doing? Jackson asked Brent, can I use trade credit for regular expenses? Like, I guess he's talking about business credit. His trade lines. Can he use that for regular expenses?
If they're reporting, that's what you want to do. You don't want to go out and get tools you can't use in your everyday expenses because you're never going to get the reporting, and you need to show consistent and on-time payments on the credit bureaus to build the credit profile. So you're basically going out looking for tools that you can use for your everyday expenses, because the last thing you want to do is go out and get, if you don't use the Unilines and Grangers of the world, and that's a freebie. If you don't use them, then why would you want to go out and try to spend money with them every month? Because if you don't spend money every month and a minimum amount of money every month, they won't report. So
if Spatula City says, Brent, I'm going to give you $10,000 in trade credit, buy all the spatulas you want, but you own a dance studio, it's probably not the best trade account to get.
Right, 100%.
It's crazy. I've heard stories about people that have come through our programs and stuff like that. And obviously we don't advise this, but there's always that person that goes, my gosh, I just got a $15,000 Home Depot credit. And they go wilding out over at Home Depot buying stuff they don't even use for their business because it's cool.
Yep.
Like, stop that. You got to be a good steward of your finances for sure. Credit isn't just credit. You got to repay it. I remember one of my boys, I'm not going to tell you which one, but you might be able to guess. You know about my boys. His credit card bill come to the house. He'd gotten a buckle card. He was pretty excited about that. Got some pretty cool pants with dragons on them, I guess, and stuff like that. Anyway, his bill comes, and we're thinking, you're going to pay your bill, right? And the next month, the bill comes again with an urgent on it, and we're like, hey, I'll leave out his name. What are you doing? You got to pay your credit card bill. What are you doing? He goes, oh, no, I'm good. I haven't even used all of it yet. I've still got plenty of money on that card. So you'd be surprised how many people in business think the same way, but it's a big good story. It does you no good to get hundreds of thousands of dollars in business credit if you don't do it the right way. So, God, we could have talked about so many of these things, but I'd be remiss. Avery, if you're out there, if you're watching this one's for you. Avery got a hold of us out of Syracuse, New York. Says, does building business credit impact my personal credit score? We get that one a lot.
I do get that a lot. So let me go back to my company with no revenue. This first one that I started actually building just to show people could be done. I'm going to also go back to my trucking company. My trucking company, my credit score is always in the 600s because they were looking at my credit all the time. And I was using my credit cards, my personal cards, things like that in the business. So my credit score was always way down. When I established that business and I started moving all my personal expenses over to it, separating myself from the business, obviously, right. But even though I was kind of still commingled because of it has no revenue and I was using it, whatever. But my personal credit went up over 800 for the first time ever in my entire adult life. It was 829, I think was what it was. Mm-hmm. I was actually in an event in Washington, D.C. speaking, and I woke up the morning at the Airbnb, and I had this text from Credit Karma, your credit score's changed, and I hit the deal, and I was so excited. I screenshotted it, sent it to my wife because we're always competing on our credit scores, and I was just blown away. What it did was it had all the things that I spend personally in my personal credit cards, all that stuff, were all on my personal credit. And once I got the business credit profile and I started using that, now I have no debt to income ratio at all on my personal side. So what's that do to your credit score? We're way up. Mm-hmm. And then as you continue to build that credit profile, you'll even know ahead of time if they're going to pull your personal credit or soft or hard pull your credit to get funding for the business. You set it up to where it's always soft pulls or they're not looking at you at all if you build the credit profile correctly.
So there's a lot to it, right? A person can, if you know all of this, if you could commit all of this to memory without having to reference it in a book and it's digital, so you can just boom right to whatever page has a corresponding answer. We're excited for you to have it, honestly, because we don't want to have to we could do probably 50 shows just like this, cover X amount of questions in each show, but you got to watch them all, and maybe that question isn't for you. We're trying to stay with some of the more popular questions, like the one that comes from Talisha, or was it Talisha and Colton? Maybe they wrote it together. Love what you guys do. Blah, blah, blah. What she asked? Do all business credit cards report to business credit bureaus? That's a good question.
It is a great question. And the way I'm going to answer this is I'm going to go back to 95% don't report. Okay, so the top 3 business credit cards, and I'm going to break some hearts right now. The top 3 business credit cards in this country do not report for business credit. I'm going to name drop them. Capital One Spark, cut it up, throw it away. Amex, same deal. Amex Business, Amex Corporate does. But you can't just go out and get an Amex corporate card without having a corporate credit profile. And then the Wells Fargo business credit card. Those are the most popular ones. And when I'm in front of a room full of people talking and I say that, you see them all go.
I'm sitting here right now going, well, Capital One Spark's never going to sponsor the show.
Right.
Unless you mend your ways. I mean, come on, get with the program. It's not fair. They're spending money with you, paying for interest rates and things like that. Report, show that they can do what they're supposed to do. So that was for Talisha and Colton. Hopefully that answers your question. Brent does a really good job on that type of stuff there. We're just kind of clipping along. Brent, when we put this together, you and I collaborated back and forth quite a bit, and we kind of went back and forth like, what do we want to do? Do we want to give out this much resource and information? Because what we do, it still requires a chronology, right? You've got to know how to do it and the sequence in which to do it. But if somebody can come to the table with so much advanced knowledge, I mean, that journey becomes a lot easier for them when they work with us, or if they want to build out all the spreadsheets and put together things chronologically and do it themselves. Absolutely, they can, right? But there's a lot of people who just don't have time because they're busy building their business. So that's where we come into play. But the tipping point, I think, for you and I, when we were discussing this and we were like, do we want to release all that? We want to address the questions, right? We want to bring the best possible value to people. But I think the tipping point was this was put together so smooth, so easy to read. And it really, from a granular level, answers all of the nuanced pieces to the questions. Agreed?
Right. 100%. And you and I have talked about this book for years. Mm-hmm. And once we started doing the podcast, started getting the questions, it was like, this is our book. Yeah. That's what we got to do.
And we could have sold it. We could have put it out there. Hey, buy our book on Amazon or Shopify. For us, it kind of goes against the grain of what we try to do with TJ, with our whole family of touring companies. Our whole goal is to serve, to see that longevity, because that massive ripple effect that occurs from doing good, right? We do well by doing good. So we made the decision. We're just going to give it to you. We want you to have it. It's yours. It's free. There's no strings attached. Just tell us where to send it, and we're going to send it to you right away. Again, it's going to be down in the description underneath this video. And while you're there, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you can get notifications when we put out new content, and hit us up on our other social media accounts. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't address what Carlos asked. Now, Carlos is from Oregon. Where is he over there? Penticton? Was that near Portland? No, I guess that's farther south, isn't it? But this is just a real simple question. It's cut and dry, but we get asked it 10,000 times over. Carlos says, at the end of the day, how do I actually qualify for a business line of credit?
Toughest thing to get right now, period. Toughest thing to get, yes. So, number one, you have to have your top-tier credit profile showing your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay. You got to have that. If you don't have that, you can get a business line of credit probably from your local bank that's not reporting, not going to do you any good, and it's going to tie up your personal assets. The second thing is you have to show revenue. Revenue is, right now, that is the best form of line of credit. It's called a revenue-based line of credit. So they take your monthly revenue, and every bank's different, but the highest one I've seen so far is like $100,000 monthly revenue. You could get a $150,000 line of credit, and it's based on your revenue. It's secured by the bank account.
Okay. So what bank does he go to? Where's Carlos got to go?
Right? That's a $1 million question.
It is. But, we cover a lot of that in here. I mean, We cover how you recover from negative marks on business profiles, how do SBA loans work with business credit, what role does collateral play in business? I mean, we're really getting granular. Some of these questions are pretty good. Are there hidden fees in business credit card agreements? We've answered all that. Do personal bankruptcies impact business credit? I got to pivot over. I mean, because that one came in, and was that Charlotte? Michael said, Charlotte asked, do personal bankruptcies impact your business credit? Can you touch on that a little bit?
It just depends, right? So you can build business credit without having them ever look at your personal credit. You're just not going to get as much access as you would if you use your personal credit at the beginning. Personal bankruptcies, they stay on your credit for 7 years. I would actually encourage people to work with, and we have a partner, that they can work with, and we should bring him on the show next week.
Let's do it. Let's grab Gene. Let's bring him on the show.
But get somebody that knows how to help clean your personal credit up and get that off there.
Legally. Do it legally.
Yep.
Do it correctly, because there's a lot of laws associated with that, and there's a lot of con artists out there that it's always funny because on a daily level, Brent and I are constantly getting hit up by different companies around the country. They want access to you, right? They get a hold of Brent and I, and they're like, hey, I'd love to be a vendor tied to everything you do. I want access to your people is what they're really saying. I'll tell you this, we go through them with a fine tooth comb. I mean, if they don't match our ideology, if they aren't a good fit for our culture, if their mindset really isn't that servant first mindset, they just don't pass the muster. Gene's actually proved that out in multiple different ways. And that might be an exciting thing. We should probably bring him on the show.
Yeah,
so
he came to us from the podcast, watching it. They actually call him the credit stud. I don't know why I didn't get that name.
I know. I can come up with so many answers, but no, Gene's a good guy. He's doing good things. He's actually really excited about everything that we do. So it's worked kind of in tandem. Yeah, he's definitely, he's excited to be able to have the opportunity to pigtail onto all the different things that we do, but ours was hard fought, right? The things that we do typically aren't mainstream, but they're absolutely changing businesses all over the place. Well, we're going to start running out of time here, and I don't want to keep you guys forever, but I can't ignore Mia. Is it Mia or Maya? I wonder. It's got to be Mia because it's MIA. Mia M. Imagine that, M&M for initials. It's kind of cool.
Missing in action.
She's probably sweet. M&Ms. All right. So Mia was asking, what are the most common mistakes when building business credit?
Thinking. This is what I would say to that. This is what I would say to that question. The biggest mistake is thinking that you're paying your bills on time every month for years on end, and you have business credit. You have corporate credit. I can't tell you how many people that I meet with. They're like, yeah, no, I pay all my bills. And if they're not reporting, you're not getting credit. So that's one of the biggest things. People are just like diligent about paying their bills, but they don't go out and find, you can't even research it, which banks report, because they change around so much. You can research it. And funny enough, we talked about AI a few weeks ago. I asked ChatGPT which were the top 3 business credit cards that report for business credit. What do you think it told me? Amex, Capital One, Spark, Wells Fargo.
So the message there is ChatGPT is not always correct. You've got to fact check when you use these AIs for sure. I had a thought, Brent, and I was super excited. And then you got me on the ChatGPT thing. And, I was going, wait a second. We did that podcast on the AI and we put together a lot of research there. You can go back over to it. Maybe we'll throw the link in the description here so you can capitalize on that too. We did a pretty in-depth report on multiple different aspects of how AI can impact your business. So if you'd like that, you can certainly click on that. We're happy to send that to you again. We do this research for people so they don't have to do it. So they get the right answer on the front side. They aren't blown up in their emails with a whole bunch of newsletters by other people. God forbid you look up one thing, you're inundated. But we just want to help. Certainly we're here as a resource from other standpoints. I think I'd feel bad if I didn't talk about Diego a little bit. Diego Rodriguez. Diego Rodriguez. So are there red flags lenders look for when reviewing business credit applications?
There's over 150 red flags. I can give you a few examples. P.O. Box, and I just let the air out of a lot of people's balloons. I thought I made it when I got a PO box. You know,
Right, you've
I can
arrived.
afford.
Yes.
I can afford a PO box. That's one. Use
Your vacation home.
That's
Your
right.
PO box.
Right. Go there once a day. Your home as an address. All of us do it. All of us did. You know,
I've done it.
home as the address is a red flag. Business phone number not listed with business 411. I used to always say, look, I live in the 21st century. It's my cell phone. That's my business number.
What's business 411?
That's where it's like the phone book back in the day.
Well, in my day, we used a goddamn phone book and it had yellow and white pages.
I've met with so many business owners over the past 3 years, and I actually had somebody tell me I use them still. I text it.
They're
What's the
awesome.
phone number? Yeah, I don't know. So that's red flag. Got to have a website. Using a Hotmail, Gmail, Outlook, AOL, Southwestern, whatever the email, automatically decline you with certain vendors.
Everybody has Gmail, though, Brent.
Yeah, but you have to have it at your domain name for your website.
Sorry, Diego. There's just too many red flags.
There's a lot of them.
And there is. So that's the LexisNexis scoring. There's so many different little precursor red flags that can pop up. You don't even realize it, you know.
So on that, LexisNexis. So the funny thing about LexisNexis is it knows everything about you. It knows everything
too
about
much.
you and about your business. And when I say 150, there's literally thousands, and banks will go into LexisNexis and pick 10 or 15 or whatever, but it's usually of these 150 that they're looking at.
You know, it's crazy because God forbid you wear Velcro strap shoes like you. That's an automatic decline. I mean, just show them your feet, Brent. But it's so innocuous. The things are so weird. You're like, I'm getting declined for that. Just like you were saying, you got your PO box for your business. I've arrived. Yes, you know. And now you have virtual addresses and you have registered agents, and there's so many different things. That's part of all this knowledge is phenomenal, right? It prepositions you and really gets you prepared and answers those hidden questions that you might have. But knowing how to do it right's everything. Maybe, you know what? I don't want to bug people. I want them to get the information. I want them to have it. You and I both do. You know, we did this so that they could have the information. We'll put it together in a format that's a little prettier than just the raw data, right? But you'll be able to get it right away. This is going to post. You're going to be able to see it down in the description. We're going to give it to you for free. We're happy to do it. We're excited. We appreciate you following and watching us. You know, Brent, we're running long here just a little bit. I'm looking at it. At the end of the day, what would you tell somebody who gets this book? I mean, when they start digging into it, what would your advice be to them?
I would say, you know, you understanding what we put in this book is just step one. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to have a full understanding of why. You're not going to, they need to schedule time with us. At the end of the day, let us take a deep dive into the company, which is, like I said earlier, we'll do that for free. We'll go pull your credit report, give you an analysis on the company. You know, if you're making great revenue already and you want to find more revenue, we can also sit with you and show you where the profits that you're missing are. You know, I keep talking about this probably on every podcast, and I probably already said it today. We live in this world of you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And more people are calling us saying, I realize I don't know this and I need your help.
You know, that's me sitting in that mechanical chair. As a business owner, when you're a CEO and you have hundreds of people that work for you, you eventually start to feel like, hey, I've got this figured out. But then you get hit with something that you thought you knew and you realize you don't really know it. And it's pretty humbling. I mean, it really is humbling. And at the end of the day, we've talked about statistics of how many businesses go to the wayside every year. It's almost 600,000 of them. And so many of them just don't need to. They just don't need to. And if you ever heard the phrase, knowledge is power, right? At the end of the day, the more you know, the better off you are. And then how you take those action steps related to it. Nobody has to call us and meet with us. No, they don't. I mean, they could take this. They could become the smartest person in the room as it relates to business credit, answer every question that they've ever had, every question that every one of their friends have ever had. And we're happy. We're happy that they get the knowledge. The more people that know, the better. But at the end of the day, if they want more, if they want to talk to somebody, they can call us. Brent, did you happen to bring the phone number with you of who they call so you can get texts at 3 in the morning?
I have 2 different phones and I don't ever remember the other numbers, so I'm just going to throw out my personal one again.
Oh my gosh.
620-212-5746.
I can't believe you did that.
I did it.
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you, but you know what? Our phones never ever stop. We burn through a battery within 5 hours of getting up just because it's just non-stop. But
the beautiful thing is that I always say text me because I get so many spam calls anyway. And so I tell people text me. And if, I'm booked out most of the time 2 weeks. So when somebody texts, usually I'm responding in between calls or whatever. But we have a great team of people that all I have to do is just copy the message and send the contact to them, and they're getting called right away.
We'll do one better. We'll ask Brent from Blue Couch Studios to edit your personal phone number and pull the phone number off the other podcast that we use for this so that you aren't getting blown. You don't think something's crazy going on, because some of these people call us 2, 3, 4, and 5 times, but maybe they can do that. But there will definitely be a number there for you guys to call so you can get a hold of us. Today on GrindWise, Brent and I sat here and had a conversation with you about business credit. We addressed conversation questions that come up, whether it's in social settings, but from a nuanced standpoint, people just wonder. They just want to know. And it doesn't matter if it's Diego or Mia or all the Ellie or Thomas and Olivia and Casey and Mason. Look, we appreciate so very much that you take the time to write us. There's hundreds and hundreds of other people that have written us as well. We're not trying to ignore you, but today we wanted to answer some of those questions for you. We wanted to maybe clear up some of the mystery behind what's going on. But we also wanted to share with you that we've put in the work, we put in the time, and we want to give this to you for free. So make sure you go down there, like, subscribe, follow us for more content, hit this, and we'll go ahead and get that sent out to you right away. But as always, like it is here,